On this episode today, we have Jerri Sher, who talks about the explosion of the brain. This is your chaplain, Susan Stafford, with Out of the Box. And I am working with a girl who's definitely out of the box, Jerri Sher. Hello, Jerri.
Hi, Susan. It's so great to be here, and thank you for having me on your show.
Well, listen, when I heard what you've done, of course, you've only done about 22 different films and television projects. So, I've been in on a couple of them, but this one today, folks, you're in for a real great conversation. 2-time Emmy Award winner, writer, and a producer, and a great director. And this is Jerri, my friend Sher, and we're going to talk about quiet explosions, some of which I got to see. Jerri, you've done an unbelievable job, and it's a little shocking. Let's tell the folks what it's about. Want you?
Sure. So Quiet Explosions Healing the Brain is about traumatic brain injury and PTSD in athletes, veterans, and civilians, and how they are healing and getting better, and there is hope, and there are groundbreaking methods out there to help them.
And, okay, I'll back up to go forward. How is it that you chose this? Was it because of Alan, your husband?
No, actually, I was contacted by a woman who I knew when I was 16 years old in Fall River, Massachusetts. She was the editor on the book Tales from the Blast Factory by Adam Marr and Andrew Marr. And she had been following my career my whole life. I didn't even know it. She emailed me and said, I know you make documentaries. I know you have Emmys, and I think you should make the movie of this book. It's absolutely terrific. So, in this industry, everybody says they have the best book. So I said, send me the galleys, and I read it. And I was very taken with the Green Beret, Andrew, but I was even more taken with Dr. Gordon, who is this neuroendocrinologist in my backyard in Encino. And I'm like, this is an amazing story. It needs to get out to the world. And Andrew and I met, and he saw my work, and he gave me the rights to the book, and I said, I'll do it under one condition. It'll be a third military, a third civilian, and a third athletes. And he said, fine.
Well, I thought it was done. First, it holds your interest. You think that perhaps people that are listening today, we're talking to Jerri Sher, who has done a great job with this particular film that everybody should know about. I have lots of questions for you, Jerri. But I think it's important I tell them that you hail from Massachusetts, where I was born, before we start talking too much here. But then when I see what you've done, far from being a writer, producer, and director, I mean, you held some pretty good jobs before, did you not?
Yes, I was a professor at a college. I have a BFA, a Bachelor of Fine Arts, and a Master's in Education. And then my life took a turn, and I ended up with 20 years in the trucking industry. And I was the first female in the Northeast Corridor in that industry. And what was getting me ready to be a producer. I didn't realize all the skills I was learning in the transportation field was getting me ready for what I'm doing now. So the combination of the art and the business ended up that now I can produce and direct.
Well, this is definitely, we're going to help you get this out further because this has got to be worldwide known. I have several friends that are really good friends, like Rosie Greer, who was the fairest of foursome, and there were only 11 that played in that game initially, who has gone through a lot of issues with the head being hit in football and boxing and the things that you talk about here. We're going to touch on those things. I have another friend, good friend. He was Tarzan, and he played football for the Rams and did a couple of films like The Longest Yard, and that's Mike Henry, who went through what we see all the time, having the head punched in and all those effects that come from your head being beaten up, your body being beaten up. What I did not know is what you need to share with me. Did I understand the film correctly? It says that if I have a drama, it's as much equal to that as seeing a drama?
A drama or trauma?
Trauma, sorry.
Trauma. Okay.
It's a drama once I've seen the drama.
Yeah. Well, the trauma that you have, whether it be emotional, psychological, it doesn't necessarily have to be a physical bang in the head. Like the Ben, who had a guy die in his arms in Iraq, and he was completely traumatized from that, as well as being beaten up with the blast. The woman who was raped in the Navy, she had all these terrible traumas. And that causes the same problems in the brain. And it becomes a TBI and PTSD, and then they suffer, and they have all the exact same symptoms as, say, somebody who falls off a trampoline and cracks their head open. So it is groundbreaking. I mean, everybody who sees the movie mentions that they didn't really realize there was a connection.
Well, I thought the point, in fact, was 9/11 when we saw the planes come in and hit the tower. And they said that was as much of a shock to us in comparison to if I'd been right there.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was very interesting and telling.
Yeah, Sebastian Responti, our first responder from 9/11, who was hauling out the bodies, I mean, he was so traumatized and so debilitated from what he went through as the survivor, with the guilt and all. And he ended up healing through hyperbaric oxygen therapy through a wonderful doctor, Dr. Alan Sher in New York City, who put him in the hyperbaric oxygen tent maybe twice a day for like 6 to 8 months. And instead, he's doing much better now.
Mm-hmm. I realized that those chambers that you're speaking of, I don't know if they're just in New York or are they perhaps in other areas, states that we might know about.
All over. Hyperbaric now is everywhere. Not as much as we would like it to be. Actually, amazingly enough, the one country that is the leader of hyperbaric in the world is Israel. Israel has more people in a chamber at one time, 100 people, and they have over 10,000 people on the waiting list. They are always ahead of everybody in the world as far as medical. But the way CT scans and MRIs were maybe 15, 20 years ago, in 10 years, that's how hyperbaric will be here in America.
My. Well, we're sure taking a long time for something that can do such good. That would be... Now, this was lots of very interesting conversations going on here. We know the football and the boxing, those people get it, but have the problem. And I think, I don't know, is the NFL now willing to say that this is why we have troubles, or are they still acting as though that's not the case, or do we know?
We know. They're not admitting to anything, and they want to believe that it's not from football, but that is not the case from what the research I've done and the people I've interviewed. And who knows when they will ever want to admit such a thing, Yeah,
because you'd have to follow the money. Right. And it always goes back to the money, doesn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I enjoy football, but the veterans got me more than anything. Mm-hmm. When you were doing, I couldn't believe it. Jerri, I could not believe it. Our boys are coming home, our veterans are coming here to commit suicide.
Yeah, I know. 20 a day. It's so horrific. And unfortunately, the VA they just keep giving them more drugs and, more medications, and they really can't cope with the real problem and helping them. So these poor guys get worse, and it is astounding. But when this movie is really out there, and hopefully the VA then starts instituting these protocols, that number will come way down, and we really hope and pray that's going to happen from this film.
Yeah, I mean, talk about serving us the most, the best. Our veterans come first, and that shocked me a great deal. I was angry, actually.
Yeah.
And then we had a wonderful portion of your film, Quiet Explosion, with Sean. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about Sean, shall we?
Yes, well, Sean Dollar is an extraordinary man. He's a wonderful surfer, and he has the Guinness Book of World Records twice for the highest wave, 61 feet.
61 feet.
But he, hit his head many times on the a rock or the board, and he had so many hundreds of concussions, and he ended up really severe. I mean, he was ready to kill himself. He couldn't function in his family. He couldn't function at all. And he actually was the only one of our characters that was treated by Dr. Gordon, Dr. Amon, and Dr. Sher. So he used all three of the modalities, and he's alive and well and just doing great with his little boy, little girl, his wife, and he's remarkable.
Imagine someone climbing a 61. Was it a 61?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, can you imagine being on that ride on a surfboard wow, I mean, that's something. And then to come out with having these problems, and even though his neck was fixed and things were fixed, it was the brain that needed the help. But they weren't thinking about the brain because they were thinking about, well, first of all, usually it's what I have that I can sell, or the pharmaceutical, or the medical, whatever. And sometimes they are absolutely right on, and a lot of times they are really going the wrong direction. We all know that. Physician, heal thyself. You got to know, and I guess he knew a long time ago it was his brain, but nobody would pay any attention.
Right, and when he broke his neck, after 3 months when the collar came off, everybody thought he was fine and dandy, and he knew that he was so broken and so hurt, and his brain was such a mess. And it wasn't until he ended up being treated by these doctors that he finally saw light at the end of the tunnel and was able to really turn his life around tremendously.
It makes me wonder, Jerri, how we could help. The suicide ratio is high now in our nation. And I'm thinking, how can we get those people to those chambers? What can we do to guide them, to help them get better help faster? I said that twice,
Well, it's not just the chamber. I mean, a lot of people are suffering from depression and anxiety, especially now with COVID and isolation and quarantine and so on. Many of the symptoms that we see in TBI are the same as these people that are suffering now from just, life in general. And what's happened is there are so many hormones that are necessary in your brain at all times. Well, if they're not there or they're gone, you start having symptoms: depression, anxiety, suicidal ideation, insomnia, and so on. So by replacing those hormones, which is what Dr. Gordon does, he's a neuroendocrinologist, you can get better, and you can not be depressed anymore. You can have a full 12 hours of sleep normal. So most of it is doing the blood work, seeing what's missing in your brain and in your hormones, the right levels, replacing the cortisol, replacing pregnenolone or DHEA and testosterone. It's mind-boggling how these people have turned around, like our gymnasts, by just replacing the hormones.
Okay, so let's just say, I was going to say, act like I know nothing. You don't have to act. I know nothing. I'm asking you because I do know nothing. I want to have my hormones checked, my brain hormones. How would I go about finding a doctor to do that?
Well, Dr. Gordon's website has many doctors who are trained in his methods all over the country. And if people go to quietexplosions.com, which is our website, there's a tab that says resources, and it lists the doctors and it lists people who are trained in this field who can help you. Dr. Gordon specifically sends the blood work to only one lab in the country in Jupiter, Florida, and he believes in them, and they do an amazing job. Mm-hmm. Just how Alan started to get better, and that was just by chance because my husband had nothing to do with the movie for the whole first half. But Dr. Gordon found out about my personal life and said, I think we could help your husband And I said, I doubt it. It's been over 2 decades that he has had no memory and, brain impairment from his surgery. And he said, let's try. I think it can work. And it did. It did work.
That was for sure. I mean, really, for that to happen. So you have, let's repeat your website again, please.
QuietExplosions.com. It's QuietExplosions.com.
And
sources there.
And on there's information as to where a person can go to a doctor to find out about their brain hormones.
Yes, and it's what we call brain health. Like, people shouldn't think of they're mentally ill. They have to say, look, I take care of my arms and my heart and my liver. Take care of your brain health.
Okay. I'm going to have Tammy, who's sitting over here, check on that immediately so we can see if we have a doctor here in Nevada, because Jerri's in California today and I'm in Nevada, and we're on Zoom with Out of the Box, Jeff and Susan Stafford with Jerri Sher, who has come up with this wonderful concept, a little too real for me, Quiet Explosion. And it's about the brain and how to take care of the brain, and how do you know if it's the brain, and how do you know what hormones, and how do you find where to go. And that's what we're going to share and continue to share with you today, because this is good work that everybody should know about. Now, the lady that was raped, she was in the Navy, I recall.
Yes.
She had a hard time. Her story was different. Why do you think that was, Jerri, because you're the producer and everything?
Well, Annie was so in shock and so traumatized by what happened to her, because she held it all in for so long and she didn't tell anyone, because she didn't want to get kicked out of the Navy, and she knew that's what would happen. And sure enough, they said, you're mentally ill, and they put her in a psych ward. So she experienced tremendous trauma from that. And she saw on Fox News Andrew Marr and his brother Adam Marr, and that's how she learned about their foundation, Warrior Angels Foundation. And that's when she reached out to them, because she was in a part of Texas like 10 minutes down the road from them. So he went to the house to meet with her and her parents and told her all about Dr. Gordon. And even though she was in Texas, Dr. Gordon treats people through Skype. I mean, obviously the blood work is taken and goes to the lab, but everything's done, and then he sits with you on Skype and does the report and tells you what you need. So she was treated by Dr. Gordon, and she started to get much better. And it ended up, our first shoot for this film was Annie getting her MBA at the University of Texas at Arlington. And now she even has a little baby. I mean, it's amazing.
It's a great story because it ends well. You know,
they all end well, the 10 of them. That's what's the greatness of the end of the movie. Like, it's all a very happy, uplifting movie. An ending, I should say.
Yes. I know we haven't gotten this one off the ground where you want to, for where you want it to go. But I see a sequel to this.
It's funny you mentioned that, because I was approached by Dr. Jane Zender, who is a psychologist who wrote the book about the auto accident and people who have TBI from auto accidents. And he's suggesting, well, what about a book about that? Because he said more people have TBI from auto accidents than war.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then I've been approached by someone with TBI in the prisons. I mean, there's so much that can happen from this. Yeah.
I see this as just a beginning of touching the surface. And because of the athletes, because of our veterans, especially our veterans, I would just love to be involved with what you're doing with this, because it's going to help a lot of people. And my eyes were open with what I watched in the film. It's done quite well. And I think that more people will, how are we going to get this out? How do we plan on getting this out?
Well, we've been doing some podcasts because of COVID right now. Obviously, the method of getting things out is different. So it's streaming on Amazon. It's streaming on Vimeo. The DVDs are for sale on Amazon. There's a promotion right now for stocking stuffers for $10, which is amazing. That's all on our website. So we hope that one person who gets affected by the film will tell the next person and so on. So it'll be very organic, hopefully. And a lot of people are saying that they really love what they're seeing and they just are so moved by it. So if they tell the next person and keep it going, we would like everyone to see this movie. Everyone could learn from this movie and help someone else.
Mm-hmm. Amen. And that's the truth. And that is the truth. I think, I guess running it as a special, I don't know, would Netflix be interested in it?
Well, our distributor is Cinema Libre Studio, and they handle all of that, of where it goes next or what platforms they're talking about next, being on Vudu, iTunes, Google. So I don't get kind of involved with the next platforms, but, you know, it has to be somebody who sees it who is an influencer. Like we just had Tony Robbins tweet for us and put something on Facebook about me and the movie, and that was very exciting.
Yeah, well, we like Tony, don't we?
We love Tony. And I was trained by Tony. That's why I can do what I do.
You were what? I didn't hear you.
I was trained by Tony.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes. In the early 80s, I went to his castle in Del Mar and took all of his seminars. I was sent by the trucking company. And actually, I was so moved by walking on the hot coals and breaking wood with my bare hands that I had Amy and Heather and my husband do it. They were the two youngest children to ever walk on the hot coals with Tony.
Is that right? I had a couple of my people that went there, and when he said they're going to walk on the hot coals, they said, I've been doing that all my life. I'm not going to do it. And that's when they stopped. But I met Tony through Casey Kasem. Casey was a big follower of Tony, and I'm so glad that he's worked with you and trained you, because I know that you're exceptionally bright with what you do. And see, you can be pretty and bright. See, it shows.
You're so kind.
Oh, I'm honest, that's for sure. It gets me in trouble sometimes. Now, what? Who was the Super Bowl? What was the gentleman's name? Mark
Rippon was the Super Bowl 26 MVP, who was the quarterback for the Washington Redskins, the big guy, who is from Spokane, Washington. And he tried to kill himself twice. He really was, his brain is so messed up. It was really hard. He's the one who did the transcranial magnetic stimulation. I don't know if you got to that part yet, but that's...
Yes.
Yeah, so Dr. Salmons, who's from Colorado, administered that to him. And he also went to see Dr. Daniel Amen. And then Anthony Davis, who was the running back from the Miami Dolphins and the guy that was on the cover of Sports Magazine twice and Sports Illustrated, and he was called the Notre Dame Killer from when he was at USC.
Yeah.
He left football after 5 years because he knew it was messing up his brain. He knew that things were happening inside of his head that he could not keep going. And he's a very big advocate. He's been on Dr. Amen's protocols for over 10 years. And his brain scan is in the film. You can actually see the before and after.
Well, I was impressed with that because I'm big on before and after. That's not phony baloney. That's the real deal, which is what you do in this film. And he's doing fine now, speaking of Mr. Davis.
Yes.
And he came from, again, reiterating, try to take his life twice. I mean, his brain was really, really messed up.
Yeah. I mean, all these people, I mean, at one point, Anthony was driving down the 405 and he blacked out, and he's lucky to be alive that he didn't just go off the edge. And that's when he said to his friend, make me an appointment with Dr. Amen. I need to get in there.
Yeah. Well, as you so well say, this is a game changer. And actually, I'm thinking, Jerri, this is the best time to be breaking this information because there's so many people depressed. and the anxiety and the panic attacks they're just rapid everywhere. So your timing is really good.
Well, thank you. Thank you. We are excited about getting to everyone, and you're right. It's a good time. We have people even in the UK who have been reaching out saying this is a game changer. I mean, they're watching the movie and they're feeling like they want to institute it in the UK military. I mean, it's gonna really make a big difference once it filters down. And the goal is to get it in the VA. Once we do that, things are really going to change.
And how it's hard to change anything. However, we Americans have seen it since last March 17th. We've gone through enormous change. And if change is for the better, I think we'll all do that. But frankly, how long would it take for the VA to accept this, do you think? I mean, we have to go to a superior court or what?
No, we just have to get the right people in the military to endorse it and promote it. And it could happen sooner than we think because Dr. Gordon has really been making inroads. And there's people in the Pentagon that I've been talking to, an admiral who just loved the film and just knows this would make such a difference. So I know it's hard to move stone, but eventually it will happen. I just don't know exactly who will be the conduit to make it happen.
But you are so aware that it must happen, it's going to happen, and it needs to have happened way back when. So the time is now, and you're making me aware of it, and I got psyched watching it last night. I thought, well, who knew? No one ever told me. I mean, no one has ever mentioned to me brain hormones.
Wow.
I've heard hormones and women and blah, 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 blah. But never until last night in your film did I know that, I mean, I knew we ate for our heart and we know that we have all these, but no one had ever said, this is a hormone for your brain.
Right. And you know what's interesting? You're not the only one. Like so many people have said to me, and these are all educated people and people who know so much, I didn't know anything about that. Even in Tucson, Arizona, at a medical conference last year, me and Dr. Gordon were there, and there were many doctors, and two doctors who saw the film said, I've been in practice 20 years and I didn't know some of the stuff in your movie. Like this is unbelievable.
Well, it is unbelievable. We're talking to Jerri Sher, who has completed 22 films, television shows in her short career, 2 Emmy Awards, and now we have probably one of the most exciting things I've come across, which is Quiet Explosion. It's about your brain, folks, and it's about the hormones that we need for our brain. Who knew? I did not know. We just said that. And so let's go a little deeper into that with Dr. Gordon that you talk about. So if we go on your website, for example, we'd probably see Dr. Gordon's name, would we not?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We have all the doctors outlined completely with their bios and their pictures and where they practice. And then we have on the resources page all of the websites you can go to for any information. And just mention, when you contact anybody, if they contact, hey, I saw the movie Quiet Explosions, I need to know more about this, or I need help, or I need to be tested. This is going to happen just one person at a time, but it is going to happen.
Well, it's happening right now as we speak. We're in the process of unfolding these things. I do think that people, the more aware, it's like anything else. The more aware we are of what we're supposed to do or not supposed to do, chances are we're going to follow that suit. And so if people really want to start a fresh new year in their being, it's got to start, I've always heard the heart and the colon and all this and that. It's got to be the brain. Got to be the brain. And that's why we're asking you folks, if you see Quiet Explosions being advertised someplace, jump on it and see what you can do to not only just help the cause and the veterans and the football players, but to help all those people that have a problem they don't even know they have.
Exactly.
I mean, I don't even think they're aware of it. I mean, that's what I'm getting anyway.
Right. It's so true, Susan. There are so many people that go through life and they're depressed and, they are argumentative or have, difficulties with interactions with people. But guess what? That all can be solved. They can get better. And vitamin D3 is very important, DHEA, and pregnenolone. Pregnenolone is the key. I mean, that helps the brain.
What is that called again?
It's called pregnenolone. It's Pregnenolone. And it's not like a pharmaceutical. You can buy it, anywhere, like over the counter kind of thing.
Really?
I take it every single day, 30 milligrams. I mean, I feel great. I'm so healthy. I have the energy of a 30-year-old. So.
Did you write that down, Tammy, so we can pick that up?
I did.
Yes, you've always had great energy. A lot of it, as a matter of fact. But what does that particular last one that you just mentioned, what does that do for you?
Well, what happened was I never took vitamins in my life because I was always so healthy. And then about 2 years ago, Dr. Gordon said, Jerri, I want to give you a birthday present. We were very close at this time. And he said, I want to do your blood work and I want to work you up. And I'm thinking, oh God, So anyway, he did it. And I think they took like 8 vials. And the woman said, he must really love you because these are, so much work here. But he's had me come in and I said, before you say anything, Dr. Gordon, I've never taken a vitamin in my life. So I'm going to be missing everything. Well, he said, this is what you're missing. And he gave me the pregnenolone and the vitamin D and the DHEA and different things. And I started taking them right away. And I felt like $1 million. Like it was a huge difference. Even though I was always so healthy, but now I just had more energy than ever, and I can accomplish more. And I don't even. So sorry. I don't even need as much sleep. I mean, I barely. I stay up till 2 a.m. I'm very creative at night, and then I manage fine during the day. So. It's astounding to me, and I've seen it in Alan with him taking all the different protocols. He's like a different person completely.
Well, that's a good endorsement. I'll tell you another reason it's so good to endorse this, because you don't sell it.
No, I can't. And, I don't put anything in the movie that I don't know, understand, and believe in. Like when I went to Dr. Amon's to see the scans, I went through the scan process myself because I don't want to have something experienced in the movie that I don't really go through myself and know about. So if you remember Anthony Davis's brain, and then it meshes into a healthy brain.
Right.
That's my brain. That's my healthy brain from the scan, because I had my scan done there. And I knew my brain was good because I just knew it, I could feel it. My mom was 94 and perfectly, her brain was perfect. And she lived so well, and it's genetic too.
It was interesting that one of the things here, I don't have my notes. I left them by my bed, as a matter of fact, this morning, that said, you can be missing a portion of your hormone in your brain that will not give you a memory loss, but it will give you a form of dementia if you don't replace it with the proper hormone. Is that right?
Well, every part of the brain is a little bit different. And you can see from the scans with Dr. Amen if you have dementia or if you have Alzheimer's or if you're just missing hormones. So, they're all somewhat related, but they're different. So in order to know exactly what's happening in there, you need to see the blood flow in the brain, which is what his SPECT scan is.
Yeah, and I think that's, he was talking about the circulation of the blood and how it was just so informative. I actually slept better. I don't know why. Maybe I was told a nice story at the end of the day. But now, we won't be able to put this in theaters, right?
Well, the way theaters are right now, it's too problematic. People are not going to them. And also, if and when they ever reopen, it would just be for a blockbuster Star Trek or Star Wars thing. It wouldn't be for a documentary necessarily. I think theaters are over probably for a long time.
I do too. And that's why everyone's going to streaming. That's a funny line, almost sad, where they may open for Star Wars, but not anything that's going to save your life, help the veterans, or all those people that have brain dysfunctions. Segue. This is really important information. And we have a few minutes left, and I'm going to ask you how your family is, if you don't mind.
Oh, thank you so much. Everyone's wonderful. We have 5 grandchildren now, ages 16 to 11, and the twins are going to have their bar mitzvah in a year and a half. And, I was very touched and thrilled when you reached out to me after my mom passed. We were halfway through the movie when that happened, and she knew all about the film, and I just feel so sad that she never saw the finished product. But when we were filming Kevin in Boston, that's when we went to visit Mom in Plymouth.
Oh, I see.
So we got to see her for quite a long time while we were filming there. But everyone's fine, and we're very grateful that Alan and I have been married now 51 years. Yeah. So, I just feel like I'm giving something important to the world, and you've done that your whole life. You've always, done things to help people in the world, and you've always been my inspiration from the day I met you sitting in Haywood. So I feel like a lot of what I've been doing is because of you.
Oh, wow, that's very kind. And of course, I could pass that on to the next person, because that's what you and I do, hopefully, is inspire people. And then when you meet someone else that has that same inspirational spirit, I knew you were a keeper from the beginning, Jerri.
Thank you so much. Some woman, just a journalist in Marblehead, Mass, did an article about me in the movie, and she said, everything I've seen about your work is tikkun olam, which is the world, repair the world. And that's truly what I am about. So I'm glad she got what I'm doing.
Yeah, well, there's nothing like living in today's world in the short life that we have and doing what you want to make the world better and yourself. I mean, how many people can say that? I can answer that question, not too many, which is why there's so much upset and upheaval. But hopefully we're going to make it better, and hopefully this show, this film, is going to make a difference, because I'm really excited for you and for myself, because I know once I get word out there and you tell me it's fine to do, I will, because this definitely should be sent to the NFL for starters. Couldn't possibly object to that, except for reasons that we won't go into. And then, yeah, that's what it is. It's part of it. It's just being patient with yourself, because, I'm sure you want to blow this and tell the whole world right now, today, this very moment, hey, I've got something for you, and it's going to help our veterans, and it's going to help. I mean, it's like you're sitting on high energy here, because I just got to it last night, and I'm really, really pleased to know you and know that you did this kind of work for all of us, I wonder if there's any bill in Congress that could be passed to expedite this.
I don't know, but I would love it to show at the Pentagon or the White House or any government agency that would get on board and say, hey, let's screen this for people. So, we know if everybody tells somebody else they know, who knows who will come forward and say, okay, it's going to show at the Pentagon and such and such.
It will happen. It will happen. It definitely will. Okay, now tell me, we're going into Hanukkah and Christmas. I'm not usually supposed to talk about that on the show, but I want to know what you're going to do. Are you staying home?
We are going to stay home. We're going to light the candles tonight and tomorrow night with our little grandchildren and on Zoom too. But mostly every bit of my attention now is on the film, doing the next article, doing the next news clip, making connections, putting the dots together, and we are going to stay home. Yeah.
And it's very possible that in the next few months you can come back. We can see where we are with this, what has been accomplished, and what we can do to help further.
Okay.
After a couple months. Let's stay on this, shall we?
Thank you. That would be so wonderful. We know the more people that see it, the better. And we just want people to go to Amazon and watch the movie. And some people are telling me they watched it twice. They're like, I needed to go back because I was so much information I wanted to learn about.
I will see it again. I mean, I was wanting to see it because of our conversation, and then I got so involved in saying it that I wanted to see it for me, instead of trying to retain it all. There's a lot there. And I wonder how Dr. Gordon got started in this. Do you know?
I do. He actually was depressed and not feeling good for a long time. And it was his own work on himself that led him to realize and believe that by changing some of his hormones, he was able to change his mood and get out of the depression. And that's kind of how it all began. And it's interesting, at the very, very end of the film, Andrew Marr's wife gives birth to twin baby boys. Yeah. When the first baby came out, they decided to name him Gordon after Dr. Gordon.
Mm-hmm. Sweet. It's so sweet. It's so refreshing. It really is. I was just curious if you knew that because he's been doing a lot of work. And you say his office, you had mentioned, was in Encino?
Yes, but he does everything on Skype. I mean, he has veterans all over the country. When I first got to know him, I would spend a day watching him work. And he'd have a guy on there from New Hampshire and a guy, a veteran from Minnesota and somebody from North Dakota. And he has the charts and they Skype, and that's how he treats them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, we have a great group of veterans because of our work, because of the rodeo that was here initially in Vegas, and because of the sport itself, of horseback riding and everything that the guys come in for or did. We won't have it this year. But this has got to be sent to the gentleman who heads the East Veterans in Texas. So when you're ready for that, Ron, what is his last name? Do you remember? Skelton. Ron Skelton. Okay. We want to make sure it gets to Ron Skelton, who is the head of the East Veterans Association in Texas. And he will lead us to many. And then we have Pastor Pat Branch, who's a 2-time Purple Heart winner who has access to so many veterans. And they will get us to those places faster than maybe we could. Right. So those are a couple. I don't know if right now, because of the holidays, the time, maybe a week later or something. But those two people will have a plethora of information about other veterans and where to go.
And we filmed a lot in Texas because a lot of our characters are in Texas. Annie's in Texas, and Andrew's family, and Adam Marr, who wrote the book. But also, Joe Rogan is in the movie, and he has a big outreach. So we expect by the beginning of the year, he will be promoting. He'll get it.
We might want to say hello. It might be somebody we want to talk to.
Well, Alan's getting it. I left him in charge of the phones.
Okay. Okay. But you were saying about Joe?
Joe Rogan obviously is huge, and he just got bought out by Spotify for $100 million, and he moved to Texas, and he'll be promoting the film in the winter too. So, he has a huge following as well.
Well, anything we can do to help, we want to. We want to. Our first reason would have been for you, and then it would have been for us. And now it's because it's a necessity.
Thank you.
I don't think there's any doubt about it. And so I'm going to never say goodbye to you, Jerri Sher. This is Jerri Sher, who's right here on our Zoom today, bringing the world closer together and trying to help people as she does it on her film, Quiet Explosion. Thank you. This is Chaplain Susan Stafford. And I'm thanking you so much and wishing for you everything you wish for yourself.
Thank you, Susan. It was an honor to be here on the first day of Hanukkah. So important. And, you do so much for the world. And me following your footsteps, I hope we can make a difference.
We'll just thank God for all things. Say hello to Alan. God bless. Shalom.
Shalom. Thank you.